Mark.
There we go.
Okay, then. Len and I are coming to you from the Public Works Studios in beautiful downtown Flagstaff. We are socially distanced. We are in separate rooms, but in any case, we're kind of tag teaming through the MC duties for this particular meeting. So I just wanted to welcome everybody, first of all, and thank you for joining us for the first ever virtual Munds Park Community Watch meeting. As most of you who are joining can probably know, the information that we have to join the meeting is at coconino.az.gov/Munds Park Community Watch. And that includes our YouTube stream, which is live right now, if that helps you. As we get going with this, because we are virtual, we always get more people in a virtual environment. And we have a very full agenda. We do ask that if you would like to ask a question, please put it in the Q&A. That way we have a record of it. We'll get to as many as we can and be able to answer them as we move through the agenda. So if you can do that, that would be terrific. Beyond that, I hope everybody's ready to go. And Len, if it's okay with you, I will go ahead and share the agenda for a few minutes.
Go ahead.
All right. And there we go. Take it away, Len.
All right, we have our agenda here. We'll flash this on for a few seconds before each presenter. First of all, I want to thank Public Works, specifically Lucinda, for allowing us to do this using her account and her personnel, and especially Mark De La Roca. I never know how to pronounce that, Mark. But anyway, Mark,
Perfect.
For putting this all together. Without you, we'd be entirely lost here, especially me. So I want to first introduce from the Pinewood Fire Department, our Chief, Josh Tope. Community Watch is under his direction, under the community services portion of it. So Josh, take it away.
Hey.
All right, thank you, Len. I just want to echo the appreciation we have for the county getting this set up. Mark, we really appreciate you. Also, Lucinda, everybody over there. I'll try to keep mine brief because we do have a pretty full agenda, so I'll kind of breeze through some things. As you said, if you have any questions, throw them in the Q&A and I'll try and hit them at the end. We'll start off with this coming up spring. We do the Bear Jaw cleanup every year. That's where we provide some clear trash bags in hopes that you guys will, community members will clean up their properties, put that debris on the curb, and then we will haul it away for you. So we're looking at, and these are tentative, we're looking at April 26th through May 6th for that. And that's also a reminder too, that if you go to our website, we have availability of FireWise assessments where firefighters will come out and assess your property and give you some recommendations for making it FireWise. So that's on our website. Also, if you're doing that cleanup or any other kind of cleanup on your property, we ask that you also go to our website, which is pinewoodfire.org, and put in at the bottom there's a FireWise button where you can put in the number of hours or the amount of trash bags or whatever kind of work you did on your property. We collect that data and that helps us to continue our FireWise status. So that's kind of the wildland portion for the spring coming up. One other thing that we are working on, this year's been kind of weird with COVID and everything, so we're kind of keeping it close to home and looking into digital things. One thing we've had in the past couple of years is an ISO rating. And what that does is that's an independent company comes in and assesses the fire department, the fire district, in a whole bunch of different areas. And then they give you a rating, and that determines homeowners' insurance rates to an extent. So we've been working to improve on that over the last few years in hopes that our next rating will improve. We did improve from a 5 to a 4 last time. A 1 is the best you can get. So, that's the ultimate goal. But we are looking at some software this year for pre-planning residences and mostly commercial properties within the park. What that does is when we get dispatched for a fire or anything like that at a residence or structure, the data that we put in there will automatically pop up on our computer terminals in the trucks. So that data can be really anything. It shows us where the utilities are on that building. It can show us what kind of water flows we need to fight a fire there, all kinds of data. So we're pretty excited about that. And hopefully that'll translate into a better ISO rating and some better insurance rates down the road for our residents. So the last thing I'll kind of mention is a few things, but it all deals with grants and donations. I do want to throw out there and thank our Pinewood Fire Department Auxiliary for donating funds to purchase some new radio equipment. These will be triple band radios, so we can be interoperable with basically everybody across the board. Law enforcement, emergency management will have the availability of all types of frequencies in those radios, so that'll be great. Grant-wise, also regionally, we are part of what's called the GFR. It's the Greater Flagstaff Regional Response, and that's a fire departments all together. Pinewood, Highlands, Flag Fire, and Summit mainly. And we obtained about a $500,000 grant this year, and it's mainly for leadership training. And we're currently putting through about 90 personnel through a leadership training, which is hoping to be, I've already taken it. It's one of the best classes I've ever taken, and I'm hoping my guys get the same thing out of it. So that's something interesting too that we're working on. The last little grant thing that we're working on still is actually with the county. So we are looking at a BRIC grant, which is a Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant. This is in conjunction with the county, Pinewood Fire Department, and Bearjaw. And basically through the years, through Firewise assessments, our wildland program, all those types of things, we've sought out and looked at our community and areas of worse fire danger and a lot of hazardous fuels built up in certain areas. And over time, we've come up with about 5 different areas that we would like to address. Munds Canyon is one of those that we addressed years ago, and we'll be looking at retreating that eventually. But with this current grant, we've looked at the drainage that kind of runs right through the straight center of Munds Park. Pretty much starts across the street from the fire station and runs north through the park. There's some pretty heavy fuels down low at the bottom of that drainage. So that's the next area that we'd like to address. And that basically, if we obtain that grant, which is still in the works, that work will be done in conjunction and obviously with permission of the residents, because it is going to be conducted mostly on private property. I think that's about it. I would like to throw out as a last thing for anybody who has somebody else who might be interested, that we are currently accepting applications for our reserve program. Basically, we are looking for EMTs, paramedics, and people who are certified firefighters. It's a part-time gig, but we like to bring in those community members, get them trained up, get them some experience. So lastly, I'll throw out, during the pandemic, there's been a lot of information and stuff come out. I've tried to keep the community up to date. One of the best ways to do that was through Facebook. So you can follow us at Pinewood Fire on Facebook. That's also our same tag for Instagram, which isn't as active. But then we also have the website again, which is pinewoodfire.org. So if you have any questions, concerns, those might be the best place to look first. And if there's any questions, I would take them now, but if not, that'll be the end of my report.
Thank you, Josh. As always, very informative. Next, we have from the Sheriff's Office. First is Mark. Are you going to flash the agenda there really quick? Thank you. Number 2, you can see we have 2 people. The traffic division that's now headed by South District, is now headed by recently promoted Lieutenant James Sting. And congratulations, James, for that promotion.
Thank you.
So you're on for some words of wisdom here.
Words of wisdom. I don't know if I have a lot of those, but I'll try. I just really want to introduce myself. Lieutenant James Sting. I'm newly promoted to the Sheriff's Office, but I've been with the Sheriff's Office since 2011. Prior to that, I was with the police department for 4 years. And I was actually asked Commander Beck about the traffic division and what you guys were wanting to know in that area. And I think that was more directed towards ATVs. Is that correct?
That's one of our main concerns is ATVs, yes.
Yeah, that's kind of been the thing for the past few years. I know recently with winter, it's at a downfall because of winter and the way things are. There hasn't been a lot of traffic issues in Munds Park recently. I know Public Works has been keeping up really well with the snow removal and doing a good job in that area. In regards to traffic, it's really all I have, and I was going to just give it over to Deputy Luna, who has a little bit more report on other things that are going on in Munds Park, since he is the Munds Park community deputy.
Thanks, Lieutenant. Let's go to Andrew Luna then, our Munds Park community deputy. Andrew, you're on.
Hello, I'm Deputy Luna with the Sheriff's Office. Been there about 4 years. Currently the Munds Park deputy. Just in case there's any new attendees who haven't been here in the past, basically what that means is I'm the one who tracks kind of the statistics of what's going on in Munds Park, and I report that information to my direct supervisor, who would be Sergeant Ormsby, who then sends that up the chain to either increase patrols, set up special patrols, or anything that we may need to address Munds Park specific issues. Obviously, it's been a while since we last met, so I kind of broke down some numbers for everybody. So what I did was I went back the last 6 months, so from September 1st until I pulled these statistics at about 8 o'clock this morning. So for area patrols, which for us, it just means that deputies went to Munds Park, drove around, looked for suspicious people, looked for suspicious things, check on the community, talk to people, do all different things. That occurred on 235 separate occasions during that 6 month time frame. Business checks were about the same. They were a little bit higher at 255. So in a 6 month period, deputies drove around Munds Park, did different things on at least 235 different occasions. A little breakdown of some calls that occurred in Munds Park. In the last 6 months, we had 25 911 hangups, none that resulted in anything of a serious nature being found. We've responded to 14 different calls from residents for suspicious activity, and all of those were verified. Some did result in arrests. So like I always say, if you see something and it's weird, we're paid to be out there. We enjoy what we do. So never hesitate to call the sheriff's office, and we'll respond and we'll check it out. There's been a multitude of some other calls. Accidents were a little low. I think COVID kind of slowed down travels. But we had 5 accidents in Munds Park in the last 6 months without injuries. Then there were 12 accidents where at least one occupant of a vehicle was injured. We responded to 27 different audible alarms at people's residences, none of which resulted in anything strange being located, just weather related or maybe an alarm issue. We also patrol the forest area around Munds Park to ensure that there's nobody kind of hanging out in your guys' woods that wishes to do harm or anything suspicious. That was also done at least 158 different times during that 6 month period. The one thing I will bring up, in case there's any new members, I am the Munds Park deputy. I will give out my email if it's needed, if you don't have it. I do not mind taking the emails. However, as the Munds Park deputy, I do not simply just only go to Munds Park. I don't work every day. So if there is an emergency, obviously contact 911, or you can call the non-emergency number. It'll get assigned to a deputy, and a deputy will respond out there and act accordingly. And then lastly, just so kind of people know, the sheriff's office right now currently has 4 officers in training that are all doing very well. So that's going to be 4 more people that are going to be out on the road to help implement this upcoming summer month when the ATVs come back, the RVs come back, the speeders come back, the litter comes back. and all those things that happen during the summer months that anybody who lives in Munds Park is very well aware of. Then also, we have multiple applicants right now that are in the process. A lot of them look promising and are coming from other agencies, so hopefully they can get on the road faster than regular. But the sheriff's office is doing everything it can to bring in more good people and help increase the people that we can have out there patrolling Munds Park. And
Andrew,
yes.
is it still the best number for non-emergencies, 928-774-4523?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay. I'll repeat that again, 928-445. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. What was I saying? You repeat it, Andrew, it's better from you.
I gotcha. So the non-emergency number for the sheriff's office is 928-774-4523. That connects you directly to a dispatcher, and you're available to either report something that just seems strange and you'd like a deputy to look at it, which we'll happily do, but something that's just a non-emergency. It doesn't need.
You just hit your mute button, Andrew. We can't hear you. Andrew, speak to me. Can you hear me, Andrew?
You see if I can unmute him.
Yeah, please.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, Andrew.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now, Andrew?
I can.
All right.
Okay, but now
I don't
remember,
know what happened.
remember now, as we approach spring, as you have the last few years, be prepared as these people come back up for the first time since fall. You may have some more break-ins to respond to. Thanks,
Yeah.
Andrew.
Right. Hey,
Anything else?
Len, we do have a couple of questions for Deputy Luna. The first is, Deputy Luna, does your patrol use a large bar light to check properties at night? Night before last, an SUV drove down hillside twice and lit our house up. Just wondering if that is the sheriff's office or not.
So yes, we do. Our patrol cars are, they got some really bright lights on them. Obviously, in the areas where there's not a lot of street lights and things like that, a deputy will activate their takedown lights, which is just a very bright white light, and that allows them to get a better field of view. And they're looking for open doors, broken windows, or anything that just seems like it shouldn't be occurring.
Great. Okay. The other question we have is, Andrew, are you the person to ask for when we call the non-emergency number? I've spoken with Sergeant Smith in the past. Is he still on the force? Thank you for preparing for additional officers to help out during the summer. The speeding ATVs are definitely a problem.
So I currently am on night shift. So if you call the non-emergency number on a regular night shift day, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you can ask for me. However, it does not specifically have to be for me. Any deputy, any supervisor, anybody who's on patrol can answer or handle any question that's occurred in Munds Park. And if they can't, they're always welcome to reach out to me and I can help them out as well.
In response to that last question, Sergeant Robert Smith, who actually lives in Munds Park, is now one of the 4 squad sergeants that Lieutenant Sting has on his. Is that correctly stated, James? You're on mute, James. Can't hear you.
There he is.
Was that a correct statement, James? No. Still can't hear you, James. Anyway, to answer the question, yes.
If I can answer it, that is correct. Yes. Okay. Sergeant Smith is a patrol sergeant who falls under Lieutenant Stang's responsibilities.
Right. Thank you. Okay. Anything else, Andrew?
I believe that's it. If there's any other questions.
All right, thank you so much. All right, Mark, flip on the agenda again. If not, if you can't do it, number 3 is from the, here we go. Number 3, Coconino National Forest. We have our fire prevention specialist, Andrew Hostad, calling in from some remote location probably. Andrew, you're on.
All right, thanks. Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, good. Yeah, thanks for hosting this tonight and everything. I'll try to give you a little update from your neighbor, surrounding the whole park there, the forest. So, as everybody knows, 2020 was crazy in so many different ways. We basically started, Memorial Day weekend is our largest visitation weekend on the district and everything each year. And we basically were getting Memorial Day visitation at least a month before Memorial Day, and it stayed at those levels the entire summer. We knew that people were going to need outlets to go and recreate and blow off some steam and the stress. And the forest was luckily able to provide that. However, with all that increase in visitation, it just led to all sorts of problems. Problems that we knew we had before with the forest users, the trash, the UTVs, reckless driving, driving on cross-country travel road systems that are supposed to be closed. Obviously, campfires is a huge one. So, we got basically beat up pretty hard. The forest did last year and everything. Just constant visitation. Typically, in most non-COVID years, we'll get big weekends, and then people go back down to the valley for the week during the week. But with so many people teleworking or even out of work and that sort of thing, or the traditional recreation or amusements being closed in the cities, they all stayed here, not just for the weekends, but for the weeks as well. So we did definitely get beat up that way. We were in fire restrictions between stage 1 and stage 2 for over 6 months, closer to 7 months out of the year. And not taken away from Brian, because he's up next with the weather, but driest year on record. And we were lucky to come away with the entire Coconino had 202 wildfires, and 140, roughly about 140 of them were human caused, and just about 60 of them were natural by lightning. As people know, we need those monsoons to actually have more natural fires than human caused fires. And typically, most years we do, but we've far exceeded human caused fires this last year on the forest than we did lightning caused, which is unusual for us. Most years we have well more lightning caused than we do human. But other things we did to kind of ease respiratory systems last year, because with COVID being attacking the respiratory systems, smoke is definitely a huge aggravator. So we held off on prescribed burning and any managed fires last year, which You know, a lot of people thought it was great because there wasn't the smoke in the air. However, people need to understand that that's just kicking the can down the road. We desperately need to continue to manage and treat the forest through several different methods, but prescribed burning is definitely, and managed fire is definitely one of the main tools that we have. And like I said, we just kicked it down the road for a little longer. The the forest has gotten approval to conduct burning again, as well as managed fires, and we will look for opportunities in the windows that are provided. That means, you know, the right prescriptions of weather, timing, the amount of resources that we have on hand to safely conduct those operations. So we will get back into that this year. However, you know, depending on the various factors, we may or may not be successful in getting to accomplish some of those that we definitely want to get back into. But we're not on a hold like we were last year. With that, there are no burns planned directly around Munds Park at this time for this upcoming year. You may remember fall of 2019, we conducted the frog tank burn just to the north and northeast of Munds. And that was very successful and everything. The closest burn that we may try to target this year that we're planning on would be down below south, I suppose, south and slightly southwest of Mormon Lake. That would be kind of the Gash Mountain area. For us, it's part of the Mint burn units. As far as that goes, I got to check my notes here real quick. This fall this winter, once the snow finally showed up, we were able to complete the Willard burn pit, or get all the green waste over at Willard Springs there. So that was a good stroke for us to clear that out. So Chief will be able to have everybody's waste this next year go there for the green waste and everything. So that's cleared out. And then after we got the big storm at the end of January, that first week and a half, if you looked up towards the peaks, you probably saw most days some good columns coming up. Those were some of the FWPP, or Flagstaff Watershed Protection Project piles that we were able to, both machine and hand piles that we were able to accomplish, which will go a long ways to help protecting the community and basically the hillsides right above town there. And then lastly, wanted to mention that we are going to have a timber sale that is going to start to be laid out and marked in that frog tank area where we completed the burn just the other year. So the timeline on that is this summer, crews are going to start moving into that area, and you will see orange paint start to be placed on trees within the cutting units. And I'll share my screen and I can bring up the map here. So if you can see, did that bring up for everyone?
Yes, we got it.
Okay. You can see the Munds Park here in the gray And these yellow units are going to be the cutting units. Altogether, it's about 2,800 acres that are going to be thinned mechanically. As you can see, this green road here is the 240 coming out of Munds, and then it joins up with the 700. This is the other green road here. That's Little Horse Park and Horse Park there. So you can kind of see all the way from over here on I-17, kind of by the closed rest area there, behind that. And then there's a break kind of directly north of Munds here. And then it picks up on the northeast side again, and everything. So altogether, again, that's about 2,800 acres that are going to see thinning via mechanical means. The crews will be in there marking it, and they're going to be the orange paint is going to go up. It's going to be a leave tree mark unit. So that means that the trees that are going to stay are going to be with the orange paint on them. That's just in the ponderosa species. Other species, oak and juniper, are going to be left alone and everything. So we're not going to be cutting those species. We're just targeting the ponderosa pine, and the trees with the orange paint are going to be the ones that are left there after the project is complete. With that, so they're going to get marked this summer and possibly into early next year, and then it's going to be opened up for bid next summer. Hopefully sell that at that time, and then the purchaser at that time would have up to 5 years in the contract to finish the cutting within that. But altogether, between the thinning that has taken place on the west side of the interstate and the various prescribed burns that we've conducted around Munds Park, this is the protection bubble or donut that we're making around the community to try to reduce the potential for catastrophic wildfire impacting the community, as well as it's got the dual benefits of restoring and increasing the health and vitality of the forest around that area and everything. So I know I always go long, so Len, I apologize, but hopefully that was a lot of info for you.
It was. Thank you, Andrew. As you were speaking, it reminds me of something I want to quick mention. This summer, Chief Tope, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were sending out some of our volunteer guys cruising on the Mormon Lake Road 240. Talking to campers.
We would send out our community volunteers on a Ranger that has a little water tank and pump on it, just to look for abandoned campfires. Right. Well, and that was mainly just to aid the Forest Service in patrolling. Right. And they'd take down some information and report those things if they found anything. So yeah.
Well, if I understood correctly, the campers were getting rather testy, and so I think we asked for some more support from the deputies. And I wanted to mention that Deputy Luna was out on the road talking to some campers, and that's when we had, I believe it was some sort of an ATV turnover, and with a severely injured lady involved. And as it was described to me, Deputy, it was sort of a life-saving effort that you were able to be on scene immediately. And I want to thank you for that. You guys are fantastic. All right, next.
Hey, Len, we do have a quick question for Andrew.
Okay.
Is Forest Service still doing work behind RV Resort on west side of 17, or are you finished?
That I don't actually have an answer. I think follow up with the timber shop. I'm sorry?
I think they're referring to that timber sale that was done on the west, just north of the RV park. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know that we've already burned a lot of the piles in that area. I can't remember if there's still more piles in there. I kind of have a feeling that they are done thinning or cutting in there, but I'm not positive. So let me go back to our timber folks. I'll find that answer, and then I can shoot the information to Len if that works.
Okay, can you take your map down?
Yeah, sorry. I'll stop
Okay.
sharing.
Right. Hey, and I have, it looks like there is one more with the issues with ATVs, fires, and litter. Has the Forest Service, whoops. Let me grab that up again. Down the stuff, hold on.
Well, that was from our Munds,
Yeah.
our Pinewood newspaper publisher.
Yes, right,
She asked
right.
if, with all the issues, ATVs and
Mhm.
trash, has the Forest Service considered charging fees for use?
I know. Okay, and that's it. So let me go ahead and share our agenda one more time.
Okay, next we have, you'll see in just a second, number 4 from our National Weather Service guy, Brian. As I referenced today, please bring your NOAA. Well, no, I won't say that. What do you got for us, Brian?
All right. Hey, thank you very much, Len, and thank you everybody for inviting me today. Indeed, as we know, we come off one of the driest years on record in the area. Just really astoundingly low precipitation recorded in 2020. But let's talk about this winter and beyond. Currently, we're sitting at about 65 to 90% of normal as far as precipitation from late this fall through the current date. A little better actually down near Munds Park. What's encouraging is, with the recent snows we've had, the snowpack is actually very close to normal right now for mid to late February. So we're thankful for that. But the rest of the forecast, we're talking through the rest of the winter and the rest of the spring, again, looks warmer and drier than normal. The La Nina is starting to fade right now, but it still has a grip on our weather pattern. And when we look at the various outlooks, let's talk about the first one, let's say the 3 months from March, April, and May, those months that are so critical to start setting up what our fire season might look like. Right now, the current outlook from the Climate Prediction Center is for warmer than normal and drier than normal, or at least leaning in that direction. If we go out to our monsoon and what the Climate Prediction Center is holding for this monsoon, there's really no signal one way or another, whether it will be drier or wetter than normal. So I guess that can be encouraging that maybe a normal monsoon or something close to it might be in the offing. I like to say we always have a fire season. The only question is, how long is it going to be? I would say with our current indications, it's still very early right now, but I would say that we should start to prepare for an extended fire season, one probably starting earlier than normal. Even though the moisture on the ground right now looks good, the current indications are for the next 3 to 4 months to be quite dry. Now we'll hope for storms, we'll hope for a repeat of what happened in January with almost 4 inches of liquid. But, we'll have to wait and see. But at this point, that's what we should prepare for. I'll just go ahead and cut it right there for you, Len.
Thank you, Brian. Let's hope your forecast is and your hopes come through for more rain. I know I just shoveled off 3.5 feet of snow from my driveway, and even though my back is breaking, I want more.
Yep.
All right.
And we all.
Okay, next, Mark. We have one of our main players here.
Yeah, I get to introduce myself, but hi, everybody. As we are going in, I just want to first of all say hi to everybody. It's hard to believe it's been since November of 2019 since we've been able to get together, quote unquote. Certainly miss seeing you all in person, but I like this too, and it's fun. It's good to see everybody and all of our usual suspects. I really like that. Before I introduce Lucinda Andriani, our Deputy County Manager and Public Works Director, just wanted to give you a quick heads up that with spring in the offing, we are getting ready for the annual Community Cleanup Voucher Days, which I believe are scheduled June 4th to June 12th. So we'll certainly be getting you more information. We'll be providing it to Sandy as well with regards to that. And I believe it was referenced earlier that we have the Bear Jaw event coming again. I believe that is on Monday, April 26th. And again, we will be working to help get the word out on that. So that's really all I've got. So without further ado, I will introduce Lucinda. And take care, everybody. I hope you're all doing well.
Take the agenda down there. Thank you. Lucinda, you're on.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
All right. Great. Great. Well, thank you, Len, for doing this. It's great to get everyone together. We appreciate the opportunity to be with everyone. I've missed everyone. And this evening, I'm not going to share a lot. One exciting piece of news, though, as Mark mentioned, we will be opening Willard for a green waste site. And we're working with the Forest Service on potentially expanding the green waste element of that site. So we're excited about that, to be able to support all the wildfire reduction efforts, in the communities in that area. So once again, we really hope that everyone, last year was a phenomenal job. Everybody, the fire districts, everyone just did a really great job. And we hope that continues again this year. With that, I wanted to take this opportunity this evening to introduce our new emergency manager. As everyone's aware, we have an emergency management department at the county, and we have a new emergency manager. He's been interim since last summer, but been permanent now since January, and that's Wes Deason. And I'm going to turn it over to Wes here in a minute, but we've been extremely fortunate to have Wes on the team. Wes has been serving as deputy incident commander for our COVID-19 operation, including initially testing and then now moving into major effort with vaccinations at Fort Tuthill. Many of you may be aware of that. Those are expanding pretty dramatically right now. Wes is managing all the logistics for that operation, which is Herculean to say the least. And his relationships, Wes comes to us from the Arizona Department of Emergency Management and had a high level role there. And he's got great relationships with people at DEMA, great relationships at FEMA Region 9. He's got great relationships with others in state government. And that's really been a beneficiary. We've really been the beneficiaries of those relationships. He's been able to secure important staffing resources to staff up the vaccination operation. And that really has been dependent on getting vaccine. We've been limited by vaccine, but as we've been able to get more vaccine, we've been able to staff that up with National Guard resources and other resources. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Wes. He's going to talk a little bit about that operation and then talk a little bit about some of the other things that he's working on as well. So thank you again, Len, for the opportunity, and that it'll swing back to me and then we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Lucinda. Wes, you're on.
Okay, good evening. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate the time. Excuse me. So as Lucinda mentioned, I came to the county in March, so I'm still kind of the new guy, but we've been pretty engaged in COVID for a good part of that time. That said, there are certainly other things going on, and back to our earlier conversation, Mr. Friedland, we will work. I just had a conversation with Tim not 5 minutes ago about your request for some information out of the rave system so we can get more Munds Park residents registered for Ready, Set, Go notifications. I just talked to him. We'll work on that. We also have some signs that we can bring out, some large vinyl signs that we could hang around your community where you think it might be advantageous, that kind of direct people toward the website to self-register into the system. We don't register people, they register themselves, as you probably know. Pretty simple process, but we'll get you information to help you get your captains and other people to direct people to the right place to get signed up. So I just talked to him and we will work on that in the coming days and coordinate with you for that information.
Thank you very much, Wes.
Sure.
I have an article in the Pinewood News. I probably 3 to 4 times a year, I put a request or not a suggestion, but hey, people, sign up for Ready, Set, Go. I can't do it for you. You just said they got to do it themselves.
Sure.
And this takes a big portion of the time. When I first started what was started as Neighborhood Watch back 14 years ago, I started building this database, and I had approximately one captain for every 30, 34 in between residents. The main purpose would be to notify or to call people to see if they were in the park for any kind of a possible evacuation. Now we can do away with that responsibility because if they're on Ready, Set, Go, you will get the information to them. So this would be very important. And again, I'm not looking for this in the next 48 hours, Wes. The next 48 days or 48 weeks would be fantastic. Thank you, Wes. Go ahead and continue.
Okay, and we'll get that to you very soon in the coming days for sure. So as Lucinda mentioned, I did a career in law enforcement. I was in law enforcement in Southern Arizona for about 32 years. I was also the emergency manager for the city of Tucson. Come to the game with a little bit of history. And then I worked for DEMA as the operations chief for Arizona Department of Emergency and Military Affairs. But I was driving from Tucson to Phoenix every single day. And that got a little old. So planned a retirement. And then this opportunity here in Flagstaff came and I jumped at it. So I'm really glad to be here. I'm still learning my way around in some respects. I'm really fortunate with Lucinda and Sam Beckett. I'm sure you all know who Sam Beckett is. Tim Carter, Mark Christian, who are also in my office. They all have great historical knowledge. So I'm learning from them every day. I try to be very accessible. Any of you that have any questions or comments or issues, absolutely feel free to call myself or Tim or Mark. We all work very closely together. We talk to each other every day. So anything that we can do to help get ready for things, we're there. Listening to the National Weather Service, I think we're all kind of on edge with how we're looking for fire season. The first fire outlook report was a little bit far out, so it's hard for the Weather Service to get too specific. It's just too far out yet. They're doing the best they can. But I think we're all on edge with that and want to make sure that we're as prepared as we possibly can for that. And hopefully we have a quiet summer. Hopefully that would be the best outcome. But definitely the Ready, Set, Go or the rave will get your residents into the rave system so they get notifications from the Sheriff's Department. And just for point of clarification, the way that works, evacuations, as you probably well know, are the purview of the Sheriff's Department. That is not a function of emergency management or the other county departments. It's a function of the Sheriff's Department. They have the ability to reach out through rave to send Ready, Set, Go messages as they feel appropriate. If for some reason they can't, timeliness issue or a technology issue or something like that, my office is ready to back them up and we will send the messages on their behalf. So all of this is driven by the Sheriff's Department, but we are there to support them. And of course, that's a 24/7 function. Tim Clark is our principal administrator for rave. He knows the system inside out and backwards. And I am also an administrator for the system. as are a number of our dispatch personnel out at Leaf. So rest assured, if we can get as many of your residents in the system as possible, we will get them the information that they need, hoping that we don't need to do that. That's, of course, the best scenario. So we will work with you in the coming days, sir, and we'll make sure you have that information.
Thank you, Wes. It's been a pleasure meeting you, even though it's over Zoom, but thank you.
Hey,
Like-
Len, we do have a quick question about, this goes either to Wes or to the chief. Do we have a community evacuation plan in the event of wildfire?
Josh, you want to take that?
Again, that's a function of the sheriff's department. That might be a better question for John Paxton. We typically do not have an evacuation plan at this time. Our main exit, as you guys know, the residents of the community, is I-17. We have basically one way in, one way out. We would never send anybody through the forest in the event of a wildfire. So that's kind of why we typically haven't addressed it, is because there's only one way in and one way out. I don't know if the sheriff's office has any more input on that or not.
John, you want to respond? John Paxton?
Good evening, everybody. Good to see you. I apologize earlier. Evidently I was under the name of Garrett Beck. He had sent me this invite, so I kept looking for my name and couldn't find myself. So yes, we do have evacuation plans for all of the communities within Coconino County, or basically a breakdown of how that would work. Basically, you know, it's not a set in stone kind of plan for every community, because you don't know where that threat of the fire may be started or pushing towards. But what would ultimately happen is we would have evacuation routes set up based on the threat that is brought forth by, and as we know here, that it's probably going to be a forest fire. That's what we face the most. So those directions and exit routes would be mapped, and signage would be put out, and people would be deployed to try to evacuate everybody as quick as possible. And that's the best I can say. I hope that answers the question.
Correct me if I'm wrong, John, but that's part of the Ready, Set, Go, is that early notification so that evacuation isn't such a large issue.
Correct. So if everybody's familiar with the Ready, Set, Go program, and we discussed this 2 summers ago during the fire we had up in Flagstaff, is that everybody should be in the ready stage at all times. A big question that was always raised during this time is that when should we be in the ready stage, or when should we go to ready stage? You should always be in the ready stage. We have information on that if you want to Google that, and then I would be more than happy to, for the next meeting, or at least get that to Len right now, some more brochures and some paperwork on the Ready, Set, Go program.
Right.
We should identify you, John. I apologize for that. John is the sheriff's office. He's the community programs planner, and is responsible for all the community emergency response teams, neighborhood watch, and those kind of things in the county. So thank you very much, John.
Sure.
You bet. Thank you,
Mr.
Mike.
Friedland, we
Yes.
do have, emergency management has door hangers that are very simple, easy to follow, and they go just to what the commander was just talking about, or the sheriff's department was just talking about, in terms of having people really understand the 3 stages of Ready, Set, Go. The messaging is important, but having people ready to go is much more important. So we will make sure that
Wes, are you still there?
He dropped off, Len. Just so you know, I'll throw in that we do have those door hangers at the fire station as well, if anybody wanted to pick one up.
Well,
Also on our website, as well as the county website, we both have links to the Ready, Set, Go that kind of lays out all that.
Josh, here's
information
the
as well.
problem. As I mentioned to Wes's predecessor, Todd Whitney, door hangers are not to be used in Munds Park. Why? 85% of our people, it's a second home, and they aren't here for months at a time. You put a door hanger in a knob, that tells potential housebreakers that there's nobody there. So I do not want to use door hangers. I'd rather knock on the door if someone answers, hand them a door hanger or whatever similar information, but a door hanger approach is not appropriate for Munds Park.
okay. No,
Yeah, and we typically use them as handouts, Len. We don't use them as door hangers.
Right, that's what I do too, yes. Did you hear
Okay.
all that, Wes?
I did. Yes, sir. I apologize for dropping off there. And we have plenty, so we can get you more if it's necessary, get them out to the chief, however you want to do that. But I certainly understand your concern about hanging doors. That makes perfect sense. And we'll support that in any way that we can.
Okay, well, thank you again, Wes and Josh. All right.
Len, we have
Yes.
one final question, if we could, and this is: are you calling this new system RAVE? RAVE.
Okay, so yes, just for clarification, Ready, Set, Go is the program that the Sheriff's Department uses for evacuation purposes. RAVE is the county-owned emergency notification system. That is the mechanism that is used to communicate the Ready, Set, Go stages. Again, either the Sheriff's Department can deliver them, dispatch can deliver them, or emergency management can deliver them. They are two different systems. So you don't actually register into RAVE, into Ready, Set, Go. You register into RAVE. That's where you leave your information. And then the Sheriff's Department uses that as a mechanism to deliver Ready, Set, Go. That also allows us to deliver other emergency messages that might be perhaps COVID vaccine related or flooding related, or I don't know, whatever else that might be a critical, timely life safety messaging. We can use the RAVE system to do that. So it goes beyond the Ready, Set, Go. It allows us to communicate with your community in any time of life safety issues.
Anything else on that subject? Okay, Lucinda, do you want to do the introduction for Jay?
All right. Yes, I would. Thank you, Len. I'd like to introduce Jay Smith, who is our Forest Restoration Director, and he's going to share a little bit about some of the studies that we're doing in the Oak Creek watershed, including the Munds Park watershed. Jay?
Sure. Thank you, Lucinda and Lynn. Appreciate being here. We have a couple things that are going to affect Munds Park. Specifically, this study that we've been working on with J.E. Fuller. We partnered with J.E. Fuller, a local hydrology, geomorphology company that's one of the top companies in the country for this kind of work. And they've helped us on other projects. And we're looking at the whole Oak Creek watershed, which is about 4 different watersheds going up I-17 to the west and to the east of I-17. But what we're doing in this study that's a little bit different, that really hasn't been done a whole lot, or that we can find ever in the Southwest, is we're choosing parts of 2 watersheds, one being the Munds Park watershed. And we're going to run scenarios where we actually treat areas with forest restoration through the computer models and see then how that affects a post-wildfire flooding and debris flows. And it just really, it helps us to prioritize where are areas that we need to look at, especially with flood control dollars, if we're going to look at steep slopes, some of these canyons, or is it better to stay on some of the flatter ground and to be able to prevent more of those or reduce the intensity of fires? So those are the things we're looking at in that study, and it's really going to help us kind of work with the Forest Service in planning out where the flood control dollars can go to reduce not only the fires, but the severity of fire and then the post-wildfire flooding that we experience in this area. And then the other thing that affects Munds Park to some degree is the county has partnered with the National Forest Foundation and the Coconino National Forest to do some work on near the top of Munds, of Mormon Mountain. So this really affects that northern side of the mountain, but any fires that may come up, it might be areas that would be thin, they would hit and then maybe not come over to the other side towards the Munds Park side of the watershed. So we've contributed $300,000 to about a $1.2 million project on that side, on the top of Mormon Mountain. So just wanted to make you aware of those 2 things and be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jay. Nice to have met you through this format.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch in the future, I'm sure. Lucinda?
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Jay. It's very exciting work that we're doing and looking at what the opportunities are for forest restoration. As we all know, Munds Park is at severe risk for flooding and any kind of upstream fire that affects particularly the steep slopes. And if you noted on that, the areas identified for the fire timber sales for those restoration, most of those are not steep slopes, but the steep slopes, they burn, they create the dramatic flooding that we saw, of course, out in the Schultz area and that we're expecting to see in the museum. We just have been extremely lucky that we haven't had any monsoon activity for 2 years, but we're planning for that still. So that work is very important. That also ties into the work that Josh mentioned earlier as well, that the county's been very involved with, working with Josh and the fire district on trying to secure this grant to do some restoration work within the community as well, particularly those drainages that create really fire tunnels through the community and can be extremely damaging. If you look at fire patterns in a number of communities across the West, those really create some really significant hazards. So with that, I just wanted to take the opportunity to just do a very brief update on the flood maps. This process with FEMA has been, I guess, frustrating at best. And we were ready. Things had been delayed because of COVID. Our expectation was that the maps were going to be going public this winter or into the spring potentially. Then in working with FEMA, they identified that they had made some mistakes on their end relative to how they reviewed the maps. And so the maps, we're going to have to redo some of the maps. They're in a process of trying to identify the funding to redo those maps because they know it was their mistake, not the county or flood control district's mistake, was their mistake. So the whole thing's back on hold again. We're hoping that they could get finalized and come forward again sometime this next fall, winter, but it's really in their court. They made this mistake and we've got to now wait until they're ready and able to fund redoing some elements of the map. And the maps, it primarily affects the area, some of the areas both east and west of the freeway, but primarily west of the freeway. So anyway, that's the status on that. And that is what it is. We've struggled with this now. We're going into our 9th year, I think. So, but anyway, we'll move forward when we can, and we'll certainly be communicating with people as that moves forward. So I think up next on the agenda there is Tom Ead, and I want to thank Tom again for his work leading the local committee that looked at the equipment barn. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tom, but really want to thank him for his leadership in that effort. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lucinda. You're on, Tom.
Thank you, Lucinda. Give you a brief update of the activities last year. The Munds Park Equipment Barn Committee was created back in July of last year. That was through the help of Supervisor Matt Ryan, pulled the committee together of volunteers of homeowners within Munds Park to look at a equipment barn for Munds Park that would support the safe and effective snow removal operations in the community. The committee was really created in response to a potential placement of the equipment barn on Hillside. As those of you that have been attending the community meetings here over the years Public Works was looking for a potential site for some time. There was this one site on one location on Hillside that was being looked at as that potential site. However, the placement of the barn there created quite a few concerns from people within Munds Park, that is being located next to homes, the barn being located next to homes here in Munds. Well, the committee, given that charter of looking for a potential location, we met, set up a communications network utilizing the Zoom with the county here, doing as we're doing today, recording the meetings, looking for input from community members to help us in identifying a potential location. Out of that, I might say a bit disheartening in the sense that of all the feedback that we received from over 3,000 property owners within Munds Park, we probably only heard from maybe 10% of the community. However, given that, the committee members took in the input from those residents, and with that, pursuing that charter, we came up with we came up with 8 potential locations. And in looking at all those locations, we looked at them based on safety. One of the main elements that came out of the feedback is that the barn was not to be located in the forest next to any of the homeowners. So given that criteria, excuse me, we looked at 8 different potential sites. And then within those, we grouped those different locations as potential sites that need further work on determining the feasibility of using those sites. The first grouping was really 3 sites west of I-17, and that's over near the southbound rest stop area there on 17. Now, like I say, all these locations have issues with them that have to be pursued before anything further could be done with them. In that particular location, the access would utilize the Forest Road 9469S to access Munds Ranch Road, which then would come into Pinewood Boulevard. Well, the issue there, several being, but one of them that would have to cross private property. In addition, it would need the approval of the Forestry Service for that location. The second group dealt mainly with private property type locations, which would require increased costs for establishing an equipment barn on any of those locations. However, they would take care of one of the major safety issues currently being faced with the barn being located out there on off Stibley Hill Road, is that the equipment would not have to travel on I-17. The third group of potential sites are really the existing sites of today, which was the Antelope location, or the one over on Stibley Hill, off of Stibley Hill Road over at the ADOT facility, or even considering Willard Springs site. So as the committee, we came up with those 3 groupings, making the recommendation to Public Works and to Supervisor Ryan as locations that could be considered in the future. Now, as we're going through this process, with COVID coming on, the advent of COVID last year, and the financial restrictions for the county, it was stated that none of these locations will be considered for at least 3 to 5 years. So it's something that's going to need further work on to eventually identify a potential site. I guess in summary, the sites of, like I said, on I-17, west side of I-17 on the southbound, by the southbound rest stop areas, really the most convenient one for meeting all the majority of the criterias that we had. See, the committee, I guess, first of all, on behalf of the committee, I want to thank Public Works for working with us. Essler in particular, representing the county as we went through this 6-month process and finally concluding with the recommendation. I might also add here at the end of the study, Public Works was able to link up with our Pinewood Sanitary District, and they will be working with to find a potential equipment staging area on sanitary district property there during the winter months, which could handle the safety issues of staying off I-17, as well as a quick response to the snow as we are faced with them here in Munds Park. That's kind of a recap of what we did last year. Take any questions if anyone has at this time, or any comments.
Mark, did you see that question or that statement?
Let me see. There is a statement to the panelists, beg to differ on interest of the community.
I'm not sure what that means.
Well, we heard several things from some folks. We did hear from a group stating that service levels were fine. We don't need to make any changes to where the barn is today. And we did have a group of folks that just did not want an equipment barn within the forest areas surrounding Munds Park. But again, we're talking about, I'm going to guesstimate, if lucky, if we had a total of 300 property owners give us feedback. So, but again, we tried to listen to everyone, to hear everyone's voices on it.
Okay, Tom, thank you. Lucinda, are you still here? I guess not. I didn't know if she wanted to summarize or whatever. So let's move on to the man in the cleanup spot here, Matt Ryan. So Matt, you're on.
All right, thank you, Len. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, excellent. These new headphones, I can't hear myself. Maybe that's good. Actually, first and foremost, it's really neat to see everybody, considering the circumstance with COVID, making this happen. This is wonderful. What I want to do before I get going is, as you had noted, Len, introduce Dr. Gregory Nelson. He is my district director and handles a lot of the phone calls that and questions that come into the community. 9 out of 10 times, Greg will find a solution before I ever need to touch it. He always talks to me about everything. We'll talk about what to do, but he's on the front end. So I want to give Greg just a chance to introduce himself here.
Thank you, Supervisor Ryan. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Lynn, for putting this together. Usually, if you call our office, you'll talk to me. I answer the phone as much as possible at all hours of the day. It's 928-679-7163. Just want to thank the community for their engagement on the barn. I often got to talk to a lot of folks about that over the past year, working hand in hand with Public Works. And thanks to all the agencies that were involved in the committee process. I know it took a lot of time, but I think it was a very valuable process, as Chairman Eade mentioned earlier. So I just, again, I answer the phones and send me an email if you have any issues in the district or anything you want to share with Supervisor Ryan, who's also chairman of the Board of Supervisors right now. I know Lynn and I talk almost monthly when he has issues, and as well as Mr. Drennan. I know he's out there, so hi Dick. I hope everyone's well, and get your vaccine if you can. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Thank you, Supervisor Ryan.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, thank you, Greg. Yeah, hitting on key points. There's so much that we're doing right now. And as you can see, a lot of the discussions, we've got a lot of resources that are out in the community, have been able to, as best we can, fund what we're doing. Just quickly, the first piece would be touching on the activity, the Munds Park equipment barn process. Process is really important. It looked like we were heading in a track that, obviously there was, the community was very concerned about. We listened, we paused, and as we had done in the past, instead of us top down, let's just march through and do it, let's involve the community. So I did I had all kinds of people apply. I had about 32 people apply to be on the committee. It's kind of hard to do work with a committee so big. I did have to limit it, unfortunately, because there were, everybody had something that they could bring, represent their community or a particular position they had. I wasn't looking for unanimity in positions associated with whether you thought the barn should be there or not. More importantly, critical minds. Could you listen? Could you think for the sake of the broader community? And I want to compliment first and foremost, Tom. Really hard work that you did, and discovery of what technology has brought us with social media. I'm always immersed in that to some degree, and you certainly were. On how to navigate it. It's kind of hard when you're trying to bring people together, work on particular topics, and social media functions in microseconds. And there's a lot of good information out there, and there's a lot of hearsay, and so it just creates a lot more traffic that you have to navigate through to figure out what are the pertinent pieces as the community puts their thoughts together. And no matter what, you're not going to please everybody, but how can you come together? And there is compromise on it. Would have loved to have had a single site selected in terms of recommendation, but because of that, the passion for the forests, that's why people live here or they have a second home here. They love the forests. It's kind of hard as humans. We impact the forest, but there are certain pieces that people want to just most definitely want to protect. And so, how do you bring the impact of us as humans into the community, adjacent to the community? Attempt to mitigate the effects associated with it, and yet provide a service for it. So for the committee members, there was a level of passion that they had. They absorbed. They were on the spot. They had to listen. They attempted to come up with recommendations that, they were compromises. So we have recommendations. Neat thing that really came out of it is, at least from a temporary perspective, our Public Works Department is looking at the sanitary district to potentially set up a site where they can mobilize. Obviously during floods, not the place to be, not the place to have equipment, and rain on snow, that's a possibility in Munds Park. You've seen the bathtub effect that we see in Munds Park when the floods come in with that. But it is a potential temporary staging that helps us mobilize more rapidly in the community. I know there was discourse, we don't need any more. And yet we've heard quite a bit on folks, when you live here, when you're in an event, when you're waiting 3 days for your road to get cleared, you start to understand the level of service that we provide and where the gaps are associated with it. And so that was what our Public Works Department were attempting to do and to resolve. We haven't finalized an agreement with the sanitary district. As noted, we're limited on our funds right now. It's not a high priority in the broader scheme of things on what we're looking at. And so for now, it's indefinite when we will bring it back. For what the community did, the comments that were provided, and the work that the committee did, it helped narrow down sites to not have it in highly objectionable sites as far as perception was concerned with the community. And so we have recommendations when they do come back. The intent of the department would be still to have a community process in looking at those sites. I understand there are barriers that may prohibit them, and or they might be overcome with agreements. But that's future work that can occur with that. So, a valuable process. Input was considered, involvement, and we're on pause. As far as acquisition of property, I know a lot of people wanted us to acquire property. We didn't have a lot of money to put forward for the project. And often that, even though there are recommendations associated with it, it sets a lot higher bar. And then when you get into the priority of what we work with within Public Works and the funding that they can provide, it drops in as it competes with other projects. So that is a high bar and less likely to occur when we do consider the barn in the future. Now, a lot of time on that, but very important. We've come to a conclusion. That's where we are with it. I want to thank our staff that work together, as Tom had noted. Essler, I tease him. We don't want to compliment him. He might get too. It might get too big ahead, but he's just the nicest guy. Works diligently. Worked really well with the community, and we had several other. Members of staff that work with the community, Forest Service, Forest Ranger, Fire Chief Tope, school district, sanitary district, everybody, or at least when they were needed, came in, helped to advise the community, and so really appreciate it with that.
Matt, may I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, go ahead, Glenn.
I just got a message that Essler would like to say a few words about the barn. Is that going to be permissible for you?
No, that's because I just kind of beat him down in public. He wants to follow up and get me. No, that would be wonderful if Essler could.
Essler, are you there?
I think he might have dropped off. I don't know. Let me see over here.
Did you drop him intentionally there, Mark?
I do not edit that way. Thank you. Yeah, it looks like Essler might have dropped off. I know that he was working on some other stuff and just wanted to attend, but I will certainly pass that along to him. So thank you for that. Supervisor Ryan, we do have one comment about the process I wanted to share with you that came in. And it says, sure. Supervisor Ryan, are you aware that the owner of the land west of the 17 where the committee had recommended a site for the equipment barn notified Chairman Ead and the committee in writing before the committee voted that he absolutely would not agree to the use of their private land? So
yes, I am. I've known Gary for a number of years, and he brought that to my attention before he even sent his letters to everybody. That really concerned. He doesn't consider that as a viable site, and he does have the wherewithal to prevent those recommendations. like with any project that you work on, you have barriers. Sometimes they can be overcome with negotiations. Sometimes they can't. They were recommendations of the community, and it's an area our folks can explore. They could run into a barrier and say, okay, it's not going to work. Let's look at the other potential sites. And or those sites could have potential access from the highway with agreements with ADOT, which, there are other methods. It begs the question of where's the nearest box culvert that that type of equipment can go through. There are different ways to take a look at projects in the future and see, is there a different way to look at this and still get to the community easily and hopefully stay off the highway and the safety concerns that we have for our folks with the highway, as well as the time it takes to mobilize when you get on the highway. It really inhibits the level of service to provide to the community. But yes, I am aware. A lot of stuff talked about, and I won't go into it in too much detail, but, I have a dream. We all do. We know our greatest threat to the community is, and from a public health and safety perspective, is fire and the succeeding flooding. You heard from either our partners out there, the community members, fire district, how they're trying to get after it and working together. And we work together with them with the Willard Springs site and or the Forest Service on who we have the permit with for Willard Springs, and the work that they've done on trying to get the thinning on the wildland urban interface, the WUI that's adjacent to the community, reducing that threat. We're looking at flood control and seeing if we can bring, we had our, I always get Jay's title wrong, but I call him our forester, Jay Smith, explaining that, we're actually proactive in doing thinning where communities are threatened. Now, we don't get a lot of money in the flood control district, but here's a way that we've already done some LiDAR flights over the area and have plans for other areas in the Oak Creek watershed to take a look at, and then target the appropriate sites that, if we work together with our partners, also combined with federal funding, we can keep working towards mitigating within the community. The discussion of the grant, the BRIC grant, the whole idea is it's kind of like urban forestry. Let's look at each parcel and where are the threats to the community, and would you consider, are there ways that we could bring in resources that you would consider thinning your property? We have the community cleanups with the voucher system. We are going to open Willard Springs up this next year. I didn't hear that mentioned tonight. It's got to be brought to the board, but I could see us easily passing that. We will not be doing the solid waste. We're still under COVID and all the measures that we need to consider associated with that. So that's an important piece. Sheriff's Office and again, discussion with the Forest Service. We have an urban level of impact for a population of 140,000. Our tax base cannot handle the level of service and funding the level of services that you typically would have in an urban setting, and yet we have those populations coming here. So we all try and work together, but you can see it, whether it's the OHVs that are kind of ripping up the backcountry. There's some really, there are really good users, but there are those that aren't. And the number of people coming up and using them are having a tremendous impact on our resources. We have a problem with human waste, with trash, and try as we may to get ahead of it, we're all struggling to handle that. So these are the broader resource discussions that we get into, but it's also a part of our budgeting and how we provide resources for the broader community. I know our sheriff's office needs deputies, but we need them throughout the rim. and the volume that we have, usually the impacts on the forest. Neat thing is that the Great American Outdoors Act was just approved to bring funding in, that the forests finally, they've struggled with their budgets for years. They have potential funding, at least for infrastructure, and through their planning and applications through that, maybe that can help us. And then the flood control, FEMA. The neat thing is that we have flood control district hopping in to help to provide the interface for the public. But it actually is a federal agency, and that's their job to handle that, to make the recommendations, to do that. What we've done is we're proactive. We're trying to help the community by being a partner with FEMA, bring them in, make sure that you have a public input. But we do have to relook at the maps. They had an error actually on their side associated with the mapping, and we'll have to wait and see how they address that. Broader scope with the county, and I'll finish up pretty soon here, Len. COVID. For everything we just talked about, first priority for the county, and we've been leaders in the state on mobilizing, providing testing, so that people can access that. We have tracing associated with it. You heard from Wes on what we're doing with mobilization of the vaccine sites. We're ready for vaccines. We need people to be patient if they haven't had a chance and they're in a category that's open, but they haven't been able to get appointments. We have to look at supply chain, and now we've had the storms back east that are causing us to slow down related to the supply coming in. Go to your providers. If you have a particular medical group that you go to, often we've distributed vaccines to them and they still have a supply there. You don't just have to go to the county site, and we have a link on our website where you can find out what providers are providing vaccines out there. Most important, mask preventative. Hey, I've got a background in biology. I worked at a biotech firm. All you need to do, go in the morning when you get the sun glaring through your window, spray a spritzer bottle and see how you'll have residual vapor hanging in the air, and you'll start to understand the need of having a pre-filter, a mask that you wear. So preventative is critical, and this is the most important thing. If we can get everybody vaccinated, it's our next step in opening up our communities, helping our economies. We're getting it with people that have lost their businesses, lost jobs. We're providing support in that way, working together with the state and with the federal government, and trying to get our resources that can help our community. Couple other things, we just had a resignation of our school superintendent, Dr. Lewis, replaced by Cheryl Mango Pageant that worked in the office for 10 years. The district's love her, just a dynamic individual to be able to quickly fill that position. After 24 years of being a supervisor, Supervisor Liz Archuleta was actually hired by the Biden-Harris administration in working in natural resources and public information. And so we just replaced her with a Geronimo Vasquez, a really neat, dynamic individual from the community that seemed to have really good acceptance of, and we're in the middle of manager recruitment. We are just, most people are working 6 or 7 days, if not 7 days, and they're working way past an 8-hour day. Our folks are working hard out there to stand up for COVID and for all these other activities. So if we're not always answering your calls right away or there are delays, we're trying to get to it. It's just a lot going on. I went on probably way over what you let me have there, Len, but thank you for the opportunity. As always, I mean, you have a wonderful community, a lot of good people, a lot of volunteers, very dynamic community. My thing, as I noted in the letter that I suggested, the the barn created a little bit of friction in the community, and I'm sorry that occurred. But if you take a look at the people that you have and the passion and the beauty of your community, you've got a great community. So my piece would be encouraging people to stay involved, and if you're not, please get involved. You have a great opportunity to do community building out there. Thank you, Len.
Thank you, Matt. You guys all did pretty good catching up in the year's worth of news here. We only finished, 7 minutes behind? That's great.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but this is available on YouTube, streaming this meeting.
It is, and we're also recording it as just a backup on the Zoom system. I'm truly hoping that the YouTube will work out fine. I'm always surprised by it, but no, it should be available for folks, and we will provide that on the webpage for this, which is again the Munds Park Community Watch, coconino.az.gov/Munds Park Community Watch. That information will be there. Along with the agenda, and yeah, a bunch of great speakers tonight. So certainly something to go and enjoy again. So thank you.
The next issue, the Pinewood News, I will put the availability of that on YouTube. You can help me with that wording, and Sandy will put that in the paper. Now, our next meeting is May 19th, and it's going to be completely up to Chief Tope, whether at that time we're able to gather in the fire station. If not, we'll do another Zoom. Right, Josh? All right.
Sounds like a plan to me, Len.
Okay, thank you all. This has been great. Great
Hey, Mark,
information, everybody.
Hey, Len and Mark, I received some comments, and on behalf of those that I've received, is that it was a good format, and looks like you got to the majority of the questions that came in as well, or answers to the questions that came in. So good job, guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Matt.
you. And thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Good night now.
Thank
Be
you.
safe. Take care. Bye-bye.